Okay, a couple other things each of us had in our packs.
Yes.
We all had a little tiny towel, right?
Yes. I had one just like that.
Little tiny
And
towel.
you end up using that a lot.
You do.
Like if you
It's
stop to
very
put your
handy.
feet in the cold creek or whatever, it's kind of nice to wipe them off.
Yeah.
Or when you're taking a shower at some of those
Yeah,
quote-unquote solar showers.
Right.
where it's ice cold.
that's your towel.
That's
This little
it.
tiny thing's your
That's all
towel.
you
But
get.
I love it. It's
Yeah,
it's
it-
good to
it
have
It
one.
really works good. It
Yep.
hangs and dries really
Really
quick.
fast.
So.
And then we all had a toiletry bag, and I had, like just a little stuff sack. Everything was in little stuff sacks. That's how we organized everything. But we all had like our toothpaste. I'd have some handy wipes. We all did.
Yeah,
we all had handy wipes.
Yeah.
Use those a lot because you're just sticky. Just wipe off, take a bath with handy wipes, basically. And I had a little thing of deodorant. These guys did not, but I did. Some people don't want to carry that. Anyway, and I had a little thing of lotion, but golly, you're so sticky and gross all the time. I mean,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
lotion
it would
is-
just get dirty.
Yeah.
You might
You
get
just-
dirty.
But,
You know.
tiny thing. And I know some people carry a tiny little thing of camp soap too.
yeah, but not much in there. Not a whole lot. Just your basics. You'd have you'd have toilet paper in your pack. I didn't get that out, but of course that's a part of a toiletry thing. You'd have toilet paper.
Yeah.
And then we had a little bag of a first aid kit each of us would have. And
Mine was considerably smaller than that.
yeah. And this is a little bit more than what I was carrying too, but this is like a knee strap that somebody gave me along the way that really helped. But I would have this. I had an ace bandage in mine.
Yeah. I
Some
had some
bandages,
butterfly
a couple butterfly
bandages,
bandages, couple regular bandages,
little ointment,
yeah,
some moleskin, the tape, the
Advil,
Yeah, yes, a lot of
a lot of
ibuprofen.
Advil. Yeah.
And that tape for
some,
blisters.
Yes,
pink
the
pills for your stomach.
Yes, we always
Benadryl.
Had,
And
those were-
Benadryl in case you get a sting or whatever.
And some toenail clippers between us. I mean, we have to have something because you do want to keep one thing to help your toes is to keep your toenails.
Yeah, I think we all
Yes.
had clippers. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we all had
had
our
our own
clippers.
and then I carried the tick tweezers for
Yes.
all three of us.
Yes.
So you just want to kind of, between the three of us, we felt like we had everything we needed first aid wise to get out and get help if we needed it. If it was a bad cut, you could use that butterfly bandage just to get to where you needed to go. So I felt like our first aid was good. My biggest thing in the first aid is really the ibuprofen and any kind of blister thing for me.
Yes.
To have some kind of that
some
Leukotape.
Leukotape or
Tape.
paper tape or
Something.
what.
Use some moleskin. I mean, but the Leukotape seemed to be maybe the best.
And what
Most people, by the time you've hiked a little bit, you've already kind of figured out what that stuff is that works for you. So bring that.
Yes. And what I find is the terrain can make a blister too. Like all of a sudden you're going down these really steep and a little toe starts getting sore where you haven't had it all. I mean, so you just always want something to cover up a blister or a hot spot really before it gets bad.
Hopefully
But
before it becomes a blister.
yeah. So that was another
Okay.
item in our bag.
All right.
First aid kit.
We're whipping through this. It's electrifying time.
Yeah.
So this is our little electronic bag. Everything's in bags.
Yes.
It's our little clutch purse.
That's right.
So anyway, we all each had a bag. So a couple of things. So this is the anchor that that we all three had an anchor.
Right. I was the backup anchor in case Christy's anchor.
Yeah.
Now these aren't the lightest things in the world. There is one bigger that even has more
What
charges.
is this one?
This one is
The 3.0.
3.0.
Yeah.
Quick charge 3.0, and you can get probably about 4 out of there, don't you think? 5?
Yeah. Even mine was a different brand, but I got 4.
Yeah.
About 4 charges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that worked well. Came with a little bag and its little charging cord. And then I had my phone charger and the plug-in that I would use. But so when I was in town, then you'd charge this thing back up. So you'd plug it in, charge it up, and then you'd have it with you. That's our charger.
And for most people, that's a need to have item because
Yep.
it's unpredictable. And when you're searching for service, when the service isn't good, your phone drains like 3 times as fast
Yeah.
as it does on real life.
So, and the other thing I would say is learn about your phone and learn how to conserve your battery. I could hit this battery saver thing that goes to mid-range and it doesn't use as much, but I can still take videos and photos. I then put it on airplane mode where nothing is running. You shut everything down you'll hit this thing and it shuts out off all apps running in the background. Put on airplane mode. It doesn't use anything, and I could still videotape and take pictures with all of that. And then the videotape would still drain the battery a little bit, but not as much. I mean, and so I would really conserve my battery all the time like that. And then I would work on my video with the airplane. The KindMaster app I used, I could do with the airplane mode on. So I would do that. It would use some battery, but then I would charge it on this. And I had plenty to get through the trip from one resupply to the next. Charge that up, charge your phone, and work fine.
You can tell we're old because we talk about videotape.
Videotaping. Videotaping.
No
So
tape.
anyway, we
There's
had...
no more tape.
So there's that. And then I brought some headphones because sometimes if I was working on the video, I put my headphones on. Then I'd have my phone. And then in the winter, you have to...
This is really important.
Yeah,
You have to sleep with your water filter, which we'll talk about later, the water stuff. But the water filter, the anchor,
Because it has lithium batteries.
and your phone.
Yeah.
And your phone.
So I had this little fleece bag, and I would put all of that stuff in here. My phone, and the water filter in this bag. And I had it in my bag with
And
me.
I put my Kindle in there too. Just
Yeah.
it was easy to keep all that stuff together and keep it all.
And just keep it all warm. And it's really, the water filter, the Sawyer squeeze, it's especially important.
You have to, because it'll freeze and then it won't be any good.
And you wouldn't know that it wasn't any good,
Yeah.
so it would be dangerous, yeah.
So you sleep it. So we slept with this little bag, huddled up with us for months, people.
And then-
I was so glad when I didn't have to
And
do that anymore.
during the day, like our Sawyers,
Yeah.
our water filters, we would take them and put them in our hip pockets here
Yeah.
to keep them warm.
Keep 'em in the pockets.
Because you're going to be using them, right?
Yeah.
When you stop to power up on water and doing that, you want it right there, and then you put it in there to keep it warm from freezing while you're walking. Because if you had it on the outside of your pack, just stuff somewhere, it would freeze
And
because
those
it's
cold
freezing.
days.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure then that you're keeping
Yeah.
it next to your body to keep it warm.
So that was a task we had to keep our water filters from freezing. Was a task that
That's
we
a
had
funny
to
thing because you hear in the morning people will say, "Oh, do we have to keep our all of our stuff
know.
on our bodies today?" Oh yeah, it's supposed to be
At night, yeah.
So
Yeah, because then it gets better, and then you don't. Then all of a sudden, it's supposed to get cold. Is it cold enough to sleep with our things again? Yeah, it probably should. Okay.
I know,
So that
yeah.
went on and off for a while. But
Everybody.
And then the other thing we brought Kindles.
Yeah.
So that's another electronic thing we had, which we like to read, and
It was
we
so nice to have something to read.
we loved it.
And I know some people read off their phone, but and which you could do if you're good with
Yeah.
that. A Kindle battery lasts forever, and
Yeah.
the font, that silk, e-silk, whatever they call their product, is so much easier for me to read. And I had this whole system where I could set it up like a little
Yeah, Nettie had it set.
have it sideways, and I could just lie in my bag and have it sitting there and just like
Yeah, she'd be-
tap. It was great.
But
It was
I couldn't use my phone to read because I was trying to conserve that battery. Doing the videotaping and the there's no way that battery would have lasted me at all. But anyway, we liked our Kindle. They're light, little.
Yep.
So that's our electronics.
Entertainment. Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
there we go.
One of our favorite pieces of equipment.
Yes, this was.
All right, so here's our wonderful poncho that people ask so many questions about. I can't remember what it's called. Sea to Summit Nano Seal.
Nano Seal, yeah.
Weighs really
Look
almost
at that.
nothing.
It's just light.
Yeah.
It comes in if you put it in its original bag, it's like that big.
Yeah, and then
It takes forever.
yeah. So
Well-
we clip these partly because they're breathable
Yep.
and easy access, and then it start
Yep.
drying a little bit more. So we clip those on our bags and then just pull them in and out
Yep.
as.
Yeah.
out
So
of
when they're
that.
soaking wet, and you take them off, you put them there, and it's a breathable
outside,
thing, and
yeah.
and it's just hanging on the back of our
yeah,
pack
and
like
those
that.
little lightweight mesh bags, we got it. Oh yeah, they weigh nothing too. So
And these babies, they were great. I loved it. Our goal. So we've said this before, but we know we're going to get soaking wet when it's raining. We've given up on trying to stay dry.
well, you don't. I mean, and it's not like you're soaking wet when you wear. But you're not like.
But we know we're going to get wet.
gonna
We're
get
not
wet.
we're
You
not
don't get
wearing
really cold
we're not wearing
with
raincoats
this.
or rain
No.
pants
Right.
to stay dry because we sweat in them and we don't do it. We just doesn't work for us. So we're going to get wet if it's raining. Our legs will get wet. Our shoes will get wet. Our arms will get wet. So we want to keep our pack dry as much as we can. So this will cover most of our body, and has a hood, and our pack, and our lower legs get wet in our shoes.
Yeah.
My hands are out with my sticks, and when it was really cold, I'd have a pair of gloves on, even when it was raining, just to kind of. But we can talk about that when we talk about clothes. But this works really well. People had asked. It kept us dry. It kept my pack dry.
It
Totally
did.
keeps your pack
Never got my
absolutely
pack
dry.
wet. Yeah.
And then we hung them up, and they dried kind of quick too. But people ask, are they really so light that they fly up in the wind? Which it wasn't that big of an issue, but there was one time, I think it was Grayson Highlands, we were walking through there, and it was really windy, and it would blow it up. So there's little straps on our backpack, those little that outer pocket thing,
Across the elastic
and
side.
we just tucked each other's little end
Put a
in,
little piece in there, and
and it stayed.
Just tucked it, and we're good. And then the front, just put it kind of in the waist belt.
Yeah.
Then we were good to go.
And it was good. So
simple.
wasn't an issue. I did not have any issue. Then the other great thing about this is you can use it we put permethrin on these because we sprayed all of our stuff with permethrin. We talked about that before for ticks every 6 weeks. And we put some on this. And if we wanted to sit on the ground, we would often just put these down and sit on the ground. And we also covered our pack with them at night.
Right.
So in our tent, we have a fly, and it has the little
Vestibule on both
thing.
sides.
Right.
I put my pack there and put this around it, and it just kind
If
of,
it rained in the night, we were okay.
we were good.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I love this thing.
I did too.
One of my favorite
All
things.
right.
And sturdy.
And it's
Yeah,
still going
and
It
strong.
hasn't- none of them ripped or tore or
Didn't
anything.
get
They're
any
great.
kind of-
And this old bag, I don't know, it came from something, but I just use it. I can't remember what was in
No,
it.
we bought them.
Oh, we bought
them
them?
at REI. Just
Look at
went
their-
right with it. It did get a
It got a
couple
little scrape.
When you go through the lemon squeezer and all that, it got a little.
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Another thing we brought with us, first of all, we each got a tag when we signed in when we
We
first
have
started.
'em.
Amicalola Falls, number 227. Anyway, we have so our guide, so we had the 2019 guide to the trail, and we used this. I carried this, and we used it. And we planned, it has everything in here. We did not send boxes ahead. We talked about that before. We totally planned one resupply to the next. So we looked, we said, we have 4 days till the next resupply. We need 4 dinners, 4 breakfasts, 5 lunches, whatever it is. And that's what we would shop for, and that's what we carried. And then we look at the next one. We have 3 days, or we have 5, whatever. That's how we did it. It tells you where the mileage, where the camps are, where the shelters are, where the water is, where the towns are, how much further, the hostels, all of that.
And gives you the phone numbers
Yep.
for the hostels
Has a
and,
lot of
and
great stuff
Yep.
in it.
things that you might need. And
Easy
it
to
really was
use.
good.
Yep.
Little maps of the towns.
Yep, the towns, where exactly things are, all the numbers to people you can call for shuttles, everything. Has everything you need in this book right here. So we used this the whole time. It was really fun because we went through the whole thing. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
It's so
you,
cool.
You watch yourself
Yeah.
work your way
Work
through the
to
book
the
and
back,
All the way to the
tiny
end.
few pages. I will say one thing: don't get emotionally attached to the elevation profile because it will break your heart.
No.
Yeah, don't.
So I really looked at this. I don't know if you can see, like, I think I showed this on one video, but see the mountain range here where it shows you the elevation and stuff? And so you'd look at it sometimes, you'd think, well, that's not that bad. It just goes from here to
Yeah.
here. So it would show, like, maybe a 10-mile difference. Like, in the next 10 miles, we just kind of go up like this. But it didn't show that you go like this in that 10 miles.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
elevation thing, I finally just said, I'm not looking at that thing anymore. Gut hooks is better for that, but
Yeah.
Don't
No.
let yourself go there where you're like,
No.
but the profile.
No.
It says,
Don't do
no,
that.
don't do it.
So anyway, the other great thing we
Yes.
used,
Is gut hooks, and it's on my phone, but you can't really see it. But anyway, so we kept that on my phone, and we used that kind of as our day-to-day thing, or as we were out there, if we got a little bit off trail, it would tell. And the thing that was really good about this is that people could put on comments as they did it. So people that were ahead of us might say, hey, this water source is really good, or this was not so good, this water source. It talks about some of the hostels, good experiences, bad experiences. And
people
things
are
like
leaving
that.
reviews all the
Leave
time.
reviews. So it was really good. And we bought all the maps. I think it was $65 for the entire package. So we had it from the beginning of Springer all the way through Katahdin.
And it's an app. It's a phone app And then you buy the maps that you want.
You buy the maps.
Because there's a ton of trails.
You buy the maps, and you don't have to have cell service.
You don't have to have cell service, and it will show you in real time exactly where you're
Yeah,
at.
you are
which
the
was
blue dot
really
on the
handy.
thing,
Yes.
and you can. So
Really
really,
handy.
I mean, it would be hard to get lost if you
Oh,
were
yeah.
using gut hooks.
But you
like lost.
Right. And you download the app is free.
The app is free.
The app is free, and then
but
you
the
pay
maps
for whatever maps you want from whatever trail it is.
So if you're only doing a section, you might only want to buy one
Yeah.
or two of the maps. But since we were planning on the whole thing, you
Yeah.
do get a discount if you buy all of the maps at one time.
And it really does, it really gives all the information, just like the book. A lot of comments of somebody going, hey, this water source is dry, and it tells the date they were there, and you're like, oh, they were just there before us. That water source is dry.
Yeah.
I mean, people are giving
And make
comments
some
all the
other
time.
plans, so it was
And,
helpful.
and what food is good. So we use the book and the gut hooks. We just had
Right.
on Lynn's phone, and
It was really a good complement of
worked
tools
well.
to use.
And the great
yeah.
thing about gut hooks is if you did get off, like that one time we wandered into a park and I went, I don't think this is where we're supposed to be. We looked right at the thing and the little dot says, no,
Nope,
you
yeah.
missed it just right back
Yeah,
there.
It showed
So,
us in some random area,
Yeah.
not on the trail. So yeah, it worked.
so it
good.
was great. So, all right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about what clothes we brought. And we basically did very similar, so I'm just going to show you what I brought here. So, this is what I hiked in the entire trail. I had a t-shirt, like a technical t-shirt, and a pair of zip-off pants. There's the legs, shorts, zip-offs. So I wore those the entire trail. I had my right socks. I had a pair I wore. I had a pair I packed. I had a technical, when I first started out, I had this technical long sleeve shirt. And that's when I started out in the winter. And I used a rain jacket for a warm layer. So I would hike in those zip-off pants, the t-shirt, this technical shirt, and this rain jacket was my my outfit I hiked in. What I slept in is, well, when I first started out in the winter, I brought 2 pairs of long underwear. So just a normal pair of long underwear. I have a silk pair, and I don't know what these are, Patagonia, just pretty thin. And I had one that I always kept dry. This one, I brought an extra one in case I needed to hike in it. And on some cold mornings, I put this under my hiking pants and hiked in long underwear. These silk ones I slept in and kept those dry. I had this shirt that I told you about before, this base layer Capeline Patagonia. It's I looked it up. Somebody asked me about it. I didn't see it with the women's. The women's now have this air hoodie or something, but it just comes down and is around your neck. This is a quarter zip shirt. It has the hood. And so I would sleep in these long underwear. I'd have these pair of socks I would use at night. I'd keep all this stuff dry. And I would sleep in this shirt. And then when it was super cold, I would often sleep in my puff sweater. I brought a puff sweater. And I've had this thing for years and I just brought it. But it's a quarter zip puff sweater. So I would use that as a layer to sleep in. I had a stocking cap. So I'd put the stocking cap on and the hooded Capeline layer on. It zips up and I would sleep like that. I brought a pair of gloves to start with, and what I realized, it was really cold in the winter, so sometimes even when it was raining I wanted to wear these and then they'd get soaking wet. So when I was at Mountain Crossings about 30 miles in, I bought another pair. So at the beginning I had 2 pairs of gloves. One I kept dry for the night and the early morning, and the other one if I would hike in it, but even if it rained I would hike them, they just get wet. So I had those. We brought head nets, but we never used them. But it depends on where you're at, when, because I know people that got up in Maine that were passing through in June or start in June, the black flies are really bad in Maine, and so some people were wearing their head nets. We got to Maine in August and the black flies were gone, but this is just a head net like this you'd wear and hike in it. But like I said, I carried it the whole time, but I didn't need it. But it's so light; it's just a piece of net. So, another thing, I started out with a buff, but I really didn't use it. Lynn loved her buff, and she used it a lot. I did not. I used a bandana now and then, and I'll tell you about that here in a minute. So that's my now. Somebody asked, "Do you hike in your puffy? How do you do that?" So this is what you want to keep. Especially in the winter, you want to keep your nighttime clothes, because when you're hiking in the day, you're not going to get, you're going to be warm. At night and early morning is where you'll get cold. So you want dry clothes, warm clothes. So you definitely want the long underwear and the puffy. But there were mornings where I would start with this under the rain jacket, under this layer. If it wasn't raining. If it was raining, I didn't, because I didn't want it to get wet. But there were mornings where it wasn't raining, it was cold. I put that puff jacket on, walked for a couple hours, then I'd take it off, make sure I put it in my pack to keep it dry. Sometimes there was one time we were heading into Franklin, North Carolina, freezing cold, and I wore all my sleep clothes, not the bottoms, but I wore this hooded thing, I wore this, and I wore my other layer coat because I knew I was going into town, and so I wasn't worried about needing them that night because we were going to go stay in a hostel, so or a hotel. So anyway, most of the time though, you want to keep those dry. Then in the winter, when the winter was over, when we got to Damascus, I started kicking stuff out. So this piece of equipment right here stayed with me the whole time. I switched this technical long sleeve shirt out for this one, because this one is a lot lighter. It's still a long sleeve, but it's super thin. So this one's a thicker one. So I sent this one home, and had this one sent to me. I sent my rain jacket, which I only use, we don't really use our rain jacket as a rain jacket, we use it as a warm layer in the winter. So I sent this home, and I put in this little thin kind of wind jacket. So I switched those out, and I sent a pair of long underwear home, and I put a pair of shorts in. Because later, when it was hot, I slept in shorts, so I brought an extra pair of shorts. And then also, I picked up, in Damascus, I picked up a t-shirt that I put in. And so at night, after I was when it's hot and humid later in the year, you get soaking wet with sweat. And so I would at least have a t-shirt and a pair of shorts that was clean and dry so I could sleep in. Not so much worried about the cold, but just felt gross to have that on, so it was nice to kick that off. And the one other piece I forgot to tell you is I brought these pants in the winter too. Look at this little tiny pair of pants. These are wind pants. I've had them forever. I don't even know if you still make them. They're just little cheap things, but they're wind long pants, really thin. And I put them in because sometimes there were times in the winter where we would be hiking, it was pouring the rain, and we were soaked. Our pants were soaked, everything our hiking stuff was totally soaked. And I would put the long underwear on, but I just wanted one more layer at the shelter. So I would put the long underwear and then put these on top of it. And it did help, and they're so little and light. But then I also kicked these out when I got to Damascus. So I took a bunch of stuff out, switched it over to some lighter things, but, and then of course we had 4 or 5 pairs of underwear in there. We got the real light, thin, easy to dry underwear that we carried, and that's it. And so I would put what I wasn't wearing, I would put in a waterproof bag like this. It's kind of like the food bag. And I would have all of the clothes for later, for in the evening, and at camp, and I'd put them in this bag in my pack. And I think that's it. I think that's all. I'm going to show you how I pack my pack here in a minute. And but I think that's all for the... So I'm going to pack my pack for you. So you see inside it has this little compartment. So that's where the water bladder goes. I'm going to pretend there's water in there. But you put that in there. A lot harder to get it in when it doesn't have water, but so that goes in there. There's a little hole up here on the side where it goes through, so it goes down your back over here on your shoulder. Like that. All right. So this is how I packed my pack every day. I've never done this before in the West, but I didn't know how wet things would get here, so I used a garbage bag the whole trip. And I would always start with my sleeping bag. I would start with my bedding. I always tried to keep the clothes I wanted to sleep in at night and my bedding dry. That would be my biggest concern. Everything else was just wet. So I would get my sleeping bag, and I would put it down at the bottom of the pack first, like this. Okay. So once the sleeping bag's in, then I just try to make use of the space that's in there. I'd take my silk liner, I'd have some room at the end, I'd put that in there. I would, in the winter I used the bivvy. Later I did not, I kicked that out, but while I had it, I put that down in there. I'd get my bed pad. So I do all of my winter stuff. I put my puff sweater in a waterproof thing, and these things squish down, but I'd put that down in that bag, like that. And then I would just kind of fold the bag over. I didn't really tie it or anything, I just kind of fold it over, just like an extra layer of keeping it dry there. And then I would put my clothes bag in. A waterproof clothes bag. I would put my first aid and my toiletries, and I would just kind of lay them right across the top, you know, just kind of using your space. My electronics bag, so you'd have it like that. And I would have a couple other things that I'd put in there. I'd put my Kindle and my towel. So again, I would just kind of make it fit. And I'd fit the fuel canister in there. And the last thing I would put in my pack was my food bag. So I'm going to pretend this is my food bag. It just has a jacket in it right now, but so you'd have your food bag, and I would put this at the top of my pack. Sometimes if I had a jacket, like this wind jacket, and I didn't want to use it, sometimes I'd put it in there. Sometimes I'd put it in this outer part. The stretch pocket here, I would put my snacks for the day. So I would take out of my food bag the night before, and I would have a Ziploc bag full of snacks, drinks, you know, Propel or whatever, and I would jam it in this outside pack. And that way, as we stop, I wouldn't have to undo my whole pack. I would take that Ziploc bag out and eat. Now, sometimes I would have, if we stopped for lunch, I sometimes would take my food bag out, and it had more food in it, you know, tuna or tortilla or something. But for snacks, I had that right there. So sometimes I would have my jacket in here too. I had my head net always kept in there. This, always had that in there. Had a bandana, just things that you think you might need. A lot of times we would put our cup on the outside of our pack because we would stop and drink out of it. We'd use a SteriPen. So I would hook that on. I have these little carabiners that I put on, that I would put my camp shoes on. So I would have my camp shoes hooked to those, and then I'd use these little straps that they have on the back of this thing. And I don't know if you remember when we talked about our ponchos would be blowing up. We'd use these little straps is what we'd tuck it in if it was really windy, if we needed to. We had to do that maybe twice on the whole trail, but. So I'd put my shoes on the outside like that. Those are my camp shoes. And so then I could put my cup on that also. And there's an, on that carabiner. And you could put it out there like that. So the other thing I didn't talk about was a headlamp. Of course you need a headlamp. And it's good to get a headlamp that has the red or green light. I didn't have that. It was probably not the best etiquette. I tried not to blind anybody. This is what I had. And I'm going to switch it out and get a better one. But when you're in the shelters and you're around people, those are duller lights, so it's not blinding people. So it's good to have those. But you need your headlamp. I usually would put that inside here also. On the outside of my pack also, I would have kept my range poncho. It didn't come in this bag. It comes in a bag that's it really squishes down, but we use this because it's breathable. We talked about that before. But I would have this on the outside of my pack, so if it started raining, it's easy to just pull it out. And then when we take them off, somebody could just jam them back in for us, or we just take our pack off and jam them back in. So I would have it hanging out here somewhere too. All right, so the last thing, so Annette and I shared a tent. So I had the poles and the fly in a bag. She had the tent and the stakes and the footprint, the ground cloth. So I would take the poles. Now, one thing, we've always kept our tent on the outside of our pack because a lot of times it's soaking wet and we don't want our stuff in our pack to get wet. So we just put the old nasty, dirty, muddy tent and just keep it on the outside of your pack. It's no big deal because a lot of times it was wet. So I would we have these big pockets on this pack. So I would put the tent poles in one side and I would put the tent fly in the other. So that upper strap kind of holds it on here. You can see where that strap holds it on. And then also when these are pulled down, they hold it on too, because you have this side strap here. And so you have it like that. And then you also have another strap that comes over and hooks to this. So it cinches down. And then on this pocket here where I had a little bit of space, I would put my water filter because I use this while I'm hiking during the day. So I would jam that into the side pocket there so it's easy access. And I would also have this shovel. And I would put it over here. I had a little bit of sunscreen thing I'd put in a side pocket. Didn't really use sunscreen a whole lot out there. We weren't exposed a whole lot like we are out west. We were in that green tunnel a lot. Had a little bug spray, but didn't need that all the time either. We just kind of lucked out with the bugs. But this is my pack. A couple of items that we forgot to mention. This is the little mace that I carried in my side pocket. Didn't need to use it, but we picked it up. I think Annette picked it up at Walmart.
We got it at a little outdoor store.
Oh, a little outdoor store.
In Helen, Georgia.
Oh, yeah. So
early on.
All right, and then the second item.
We have poles. We all use poles, and they do help your knees. They take, I think, 25% or something of the pressure off of your knees.
Yeah.
They really helped us just to keep going. I always use poles when I backpack.
And we've always used poles. Mm-hmm. I left mine. We all use black diamond poles. I had mine for like 17 years.
I call them sticks.
Yeah, sticks. I left mine in a hostel in Millinocket because they wouldn't close anymore. They were just old. Annette's were stolen in Damascus. Mm-hmm. So we bought these. These are some REI carbon fiber.
These are light. Very nice.
They're really light. We haven't used them yet, so we can't really tell you how they work, but we got some new ones.
Anyway.
So anyway.
The idea of using sticks or not.
Yeah, we believe in using the sticks.
It's a personal choice, but it's nice when you're older, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the slack pack bag that we carried. And
You see how small it
it's
is?
in this tiny little thing, but the way that we carried it in our packs was usually just to have it, excuse me, open, and then just lying flat in the bottom of the pack.
Yeah,
Gosh, it really is in
It's
there,
really
isn't it?
thin, and you just spread it out at the bottom of the pack.
And some people don't use one of these. It's kind of a luxury item. We
Yep.
we really liked it when we were slack packing, of course, and then also when we were doing laundry or whatever.
Yeah.
We used them
Yeah.
quite a bit. So
So we liked having those.
This one is an Arcadia
Sea to sky,
Sea to Sky.
waterproof.
It's waterproof. It worked great.
Yeah.
It's got this nice. It's got a roll top for the main part of the bag, and then it's got this nice zip front.
And we did a whole video on it. So if
yeah.
you want to see
worked
more
great.
about it, you can watch that video.
Yep.
All right, people.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, one thing that really helped us be successful out there, of all of our gear, all of our stuff, is you guys.
That's right.
Yeah, it
was so fun to have comments and know that people were rooting us on.
Rooting us
and
on. We had
following
people
us.
all.
It was great.
You know, we did this as a diary, a video diary. And then all of a sudden we started getting comments of people saying, "Yay, I'm rooting for you. I'm going all the way to Maine with you." And we were like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
And it helped.
We did not know.
Helped so much. So thank you.
And it was really fun. It was cool to know that people were like in your corner saying, "Yeah, you can do this.
Yeah.
You got this."
And it was fun having you along.
Yeah.
Yep. it really
All
was.
right.
Okay.
Bye.
Hasta.
Had a good time and
Oh, fellow AT hikers, what are you doing?
well, we're just finishing up our gear review. We did a little bit of a gear
Wait.
review for people.
You are doing a gear review?
Yes.
Yeah.
But what are you going to say?
We just told them about
What
the
we
gear that
used.
we used and how we were successful.
Well, you didn't use the right gear.
Oh.
It is a miracle that you made it. It is totally a miracle.
Oh, well.
Did you tell them that?
No.